The Zephyrian High Command had expected compliance. After all, every species they had conquered in the past 3 centuries had submitted to the weapon prohibition decree within solar cycles. Energy weapons, projectile firearms, explosive devices, all banned under penalty of orbital bombardment. The decree had worked flawlessly across 47 worlds. Earth was number 48. Admiral Kethavar stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Supremacy, his forearms crossed behind his chitinous back as he observed the blue-green world through the viewport. The initial invasion had proceeded according to protocol: disable military installations, jam communications, occupy major population centers. Humanity's crude gunpowder weapons and primitive missiles had proven laughably ineffective against Zephyrian energy shields. "Status report," Kethavar commanded, his translator rendering his clicking speech into the local human languages below. 97% of human firearms have been confiscated or destroyed, Admiral, reported Commander Zixtal. The few remaining resistance cells have been contained to rural areas. Pacification protocols are proceeding smoothly. Kethavar's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. Excellent. Deploy the garrison forces to maintain order. This world will serve as an excellent agricultural colony. That had been 6 months ago. Now, as Kethavar studied the casualty reports flooding his command center, his confidence had evaporated like morning mist. In the past week alone, his forces had lost 3 outposts, 2 supply convoys, and an entire patrol squadron. The humans weren't using firearms. They had learned that lesson. Instead, they had returned to something far more primitive and far more effective than anyone had anticipated. The first incident had occurred at Forward Base Delta 7. Security footage showed a group of humans approaching under cover of darkness, moving with unsettling silence through the perimeter sensors. They carried what appeared to be curved pieces of wood and thin shafts. The Zephyrian guards had laughed at the primitive display. The laughter had died when the first arrow found its mark. The projectile had struck the guard's neck joint, slipping beneath the armor plating with surgical precision. Before the alien could raise an alarm, he collapsed, a strange wooden shaft protruding from his throat. Within minutes, the entire outpost of 47 Zephyrian soldiers had fallen to these ancient weapons. "How is this possible?" Kethavar had demanded when the reports first arrived. "They're using sticks and strings." His chief tactical officer, a grizzled veteran named Maltar, had reviewed the footage with growing unease. "Admiral, these aren't random attacks. Look at the precision, the coordination. These humans have transformed warfare into an art form." The pattern had become clear over the following weeks. Humans emerged from forests and urban ruins wielding longbows that could punch through armor gaps at impossible distances. They carried spears with tips forged from salvaged metal, designed specifically to exploit weaknesses in Zephyrian equipment. Most disturbing of all were the crossbows, mechanical marvels that could fire bolts with enough force to penetrate even reinforced battle armor. In the mountains of Tibet, an entire Zephyrian company had been wiped out by humans using traditional recurve bows, their arrows falling like deadly rain from impossible elevations. The survivors spoke in hushed tones of humans who could hit targets at ranges that defied belief, their movements fluid and silent as shadows. In the Amazon rainforest, Zephyrian patrols had learned to fear the whistle of thrown spears. Human warriors materialized from the jungle canopy, their weapons honed to deadly perfection through millennia of hunting tradition. They moved through the terrain like ghosts, striking with primitive weapons that had been refined into instruments of precision warfare. The urban environments had proven no safer. In the ruins of London, humans had constructed compound bows from salvaged materials, their arrows carrying explosive charges made from fertilizer and household chemicals. They turned every rooftop into a sniper's nest, every alley into an ambush point. "They're not just using primitive weapons," Maltar explained during the emergency briefing. "They're improving them. Look at these reports. Crossbows with mechanical loading systems that fire faster than our energy weapons can cycle. Recurve bows with cam systems that multiply draw strength. Spear throwers that extend range and accuracy beyond anything in their historical records." Kethavar studied the tactical displays with growing horror. Red markers indicated Zephyrian losses, spreading across the continents like a plague. "But they're just pointed sticks. How can pointed sticks defeat plasma rifles?" "Because pointed sticks don't need power cells, Admiral," Maltar replied grimly. "They don't emit energy signatures our sensors can track. They're silent, leaving no trace of their origin, and humans have had thousands of years to perfect their use. The breaking point came during the Battle of Sherwood Preserve. A full battalion of Zephyrian shock troops had surrounded what they believed to be the last major human resistance cell. The humans were outnumbered 10-1, trapped in a forest with nowhere to run. The Zephyrians had advanced in standard formation, energy shields raised, plasma weapons charged and ready. They expected the usual desperate last stand. Instead, they walked into a killing field that would be studied in military academies for generations. The humans had turned the entire forest into a weapon. Every tree became an archer's platform. Every bush concealed a spear thrower. Arrows fell like rain from impossible angles, finding gaps in armor with supernatural precision. Crossbow bolts pierced shields that could deflect energy beams. Spears launched from concealed positions struck with enough force to penetrate battle armor. But it wasn't just the weapons, it was the warriors wielding them. These humans moved with a grace and purpose that spoke of lifetimes spent perfecting their craft. They were hunters, athletes, soldiers, and artists combined into something the galaxy had never seen. A single human archer, later identified as Sarah Chen, had eliminated 17 Zephyrian soldiers with 17 arrows before relocating to a new position. Each shot had been perfectly placed, striking joints, visors, and weak points with mechanical precision. Security footage showed her drawing and releasing with fluid motions that seemed almost supernatural. In another section of the battle, a team of humans armed with modern compound bows had set up overlapping fields of fire that created death zones no Zephyrian could cross. They communicated through hand signals, coordinating their attacks with military precision while maintaining complete silence. The Zephyrian retreat had become a rout. Of the original battalion of 800 soldiers, fewer than 100 made it back to the extraction point. The humans had suffered only minor casualties. That night, as emergency evacuation protocols began across all remaining Zephyrian positions, Kethvar found himself facing an uncomfortable truth. His species had conquered 47 worlds using superior technology and overwhelming firepower. They had forgotten that warfare wasn't just about having better weapons, it was about having better warriors. The humans had reminded them of that lesson with profound finality. "Admiral," Commander Zixtal reported, his voice shaking slightly. "We've received word from High Command. They're authorizing full withdrawal from the Sol system." Kethvar nodded slowly, watching through the viewport as the blue-green world turned below them. "Mark this in the records, Commander. Earth is to be classified as a Class X world. No future contact authorized." "What classification reason should I list, Admiral?" Kethvar considered the question, thinking of arrows that flew like guided missiles, spears that struck with the force of artillery, and humans who had turned the art of war into a deadly poetry written in wood, metal, and sinew. "Primitively advanced," he said finally. "Mark them as primitively advanced." As the Zephyrian fleet departed the Sol system, leaving behind their weapons ban and their wounded pride, the humans below continued their practice. Archery ranges filled with citizens learning to draw bowstrings. Spear-throwing competitions drew crowds in city parks. Children learned to craft arrows from their grandparents, carrying forward traditions that had just proven their worth on a galactic stage. The universe was vast and filled with wonders: energy weapons, faster-than-light travel, artificial intelligence, and technologies that seemed like magic. But sometimes the most advanced answer to a complex problem was also the simplest one. Sometimes a sharp stick and a steady hand were all you needed to remind the cosmos that humanity would not be conquered.